Hello and welcome to this video. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about animations in Android. So go ahead and create a new Android Studio project and name it as Animations in Android. And here, let's go ahead and open our layout file. So here you can see that we have this Hello World text view. So we are going to implement our animations on this text view. If you want to, you can go ahead and download some images from the internet, and that would actually be your challenge at the end of this tutorial. So for now, let's just work on this text view and just perform our animations on this text view. So let's go ahead and increase the font size of this text view. So the text size is going to be 30sp, and let's actually go ahead and change the background color of this text view background. Click on this ellipsis button, color, and then here we can choose one of these colors. We can choose color accent if you want, and then click on OK. And let's also change the text color, and here you just need to find the text color attribute. So I'm gonna choose, for example, color primary, and click on OK. So now I think it's fine. Now let's also specify an ID for this text view. So the ID is going to be txt hello world. And now I think it's fine. Let's go inside this main activity class and let's declare this text view here. So let's declare it as private inside the main activity class, text view, and name it as txt hello world, semicolon. So now we can see that the text view here is in red color. This means that this class is not imported to our file. So I'm gonna just click on it, and I just need to hold down the Alt key and then press on Enter key on my keyboard. So now it is imported. Another way is just to delete this text view and then write it again, for example, text view, and then by using the autocomplete feature of Android Studio, select it here and then press on Enter key on your keyboard in order to import it. Now the problem is solved. Now we need to go ahead and initialize our text view. So txt hello world assignment operator, find view by ID or .id.txt hello world, semicolon. So now let's go ahead and run our application and see that our layout is working fine, because next we are going to specify an on-click listener for our text view. So like buttons, we can also use the on-click listener interface, and then we can create an anonymous inner class so that when the user clicks or taps on this hello world text view, then we can do something here. So let's go inside this main activity class. You can go inside this onCreate method and just say txt hello world, and then you can call the set onClick listener method on this text view. But now I have a mini challenge for you. Go ahead and specify an onClick listener for this text view, and then create a log statement so that when the user clicks on this text view, then something is going to be outputted to the logs. So give this challenge a go and good luck. So here, when I tried to run the app, now you can see that it says system UI isn't responding. So that's not a problem, okay? Sometimes this happens and it is not necessarily a bug. I can just close this app and then I can run it again. So so first let's comment out this line of code so that we don't have any compile errors, and then I can run this app again, or I can, for example, choose another device and then click on OK. So here it is, the app running on the simulator. Now let's go back to Android Studio, and here I'm gonna say txt hello world.set onClick listener, and then we need to create an onClick listener. So we need to say new onClick listener. So here you can see that as I'm writing here onClick, it says view.onClick listener, and you can see inside the parentheses it has put 3 dots. So this means that when I choose this one, it's gonna automatically write all the codes for me. So let me show you how it's done. You just need to say new and then hold down the shift key and then press on the letter V on your keyboard. So the first option that appears here is this one, view.onClick listener, a pair of curly braces, and then we have 3 dots. Choose this one and then press an Enter key on your keyboard in order to see what happens. Now you can see that all the codes are written here for me automatically. So you can see that it created an anonymous inner class for me here, and this anonymous inner class is implementing this view.onClickListener interface, and that's why we have this onClick method that is an abstract method inside this onClickListener interface, and we need to provide an implementation for this method. So inside this onClick method, I can say log.I, and then as the first argument, it is going to be the tag. So I'm going to say my tag, and then comma. Next, we need to specify the value. So I'm going to say hello world, semicolon. Let's go ahead and run the app, and let's see whether our app works fine or not. Now let's go and click on this hello world here, this text view, and then go ahead and click on logcat. So just copy this tag value and paste it inside this search area. So over here, you can see that it says hello world. So if I go ahead and click on this text view again, it is going to output this value to the log. So you can see that it works perfectly. Now let's go back to our file again. So let's go ahead and comment out this line of code because I don't want the compiler to execute this code. Next, let's go ahead and implement our animations on our text view. So inside this onClick method, I'm going to say txt hello world dot animate. I'm going to call the animate method. And then, so I'm going to just type in here dot. So here you can see all the animation methods. We can use all of them. So for example, we have this rotation. Let's choose this one. And this rotation needs a value. So let's, for example, let's pass the value 10. Because it is a float value, you can just F here. And then just put dot. So now I want this animation to take place over a certain period of time. So I'm going to say set duration. So the duration value is going to be in milliseconds. So for example, if you say 1000 milliseconds, this means 1 second, semicolon. Now let's go ahead and let's run our app and let's see what happens. So let's go ahead and click on our text view. So now you can see that it is rotated, and that's fine. We can go ahead and change this value. So for example, I can say 787, and let's run it again. So you need to go ahead and play around with these values, with these animation values. So I'm gonna click on it again. So now you can see the animation that is taking place here. Or instead of using rotation, I can use another method. I can, for example, delete this rotation, and you just need to put dot. And if you want to see the autocomplete feature to show you other options, you just need to hold down the control key and then press on the space key on your keyboard. So for example, we have the scale X and we have scale Y. So let's choose scale X and let's go ahead and run it. Let's click on this text view. Now you can see that it is now scaled. So scale X means that it is going to scale our text view in a horizontal axis. So for example, let's change this value 87 to 30 and then run the app again. Let's click on this text view. So it is now scaled in a horizontal axis. You can use scale Y if you want. So I'm going to choose scale Y. And then I can run the app now. So now we can see that it is now scaled in a vertical axis. Instead of scale, you can choose other methods. For example, you can choose alpha if you want. So let's choose this one. And the alpha value is going to be a value between 0 and 1. So 0 means that it is completely faded out. And 1 means that it is actually the solid text view. So let's go ahead and change the value of the alpha, because this value must be between 0 and 1. So I'm going to say 0.5, and it is a float value. I just put the letter F here. And then we can also change the duration to, for example, 3 seconds and run the app. So let's go ahead and click on this text view. Now you can see that over a certain period of time, in 3 seconds, it is now actually faded out a little bit. So for example, if I change this value to 0.1, let's see what happens. So the best way to learn about animations is to just start working on it, start playing around with these values, with different animations, and you can just put whatever you want in order to learn it better. So I'm going to click on this text view. Now you can see that it is faded out and it's barely visible on the screen. So hopefully that makes sense. So now it's challenge time. So your challenge is that when a user clicks on this text view, I want this text view to be faded out completely and another text view to be visible in exactly the same position of this hello world text view. And that text view should say hi world instead of hello world. So go ahead and give this challenge a go and good luck. So now let's go ahead and solve this challenge. Let's go and switch to the text tab. And here, let me make this area wider. So you can see that I told you that I want the second text view to be at the same exact position of this hello world text view. So I'm going to copy this text view code and I'm going to paste it here below. And if you go ahead and take a look at the previous section, you can see that now we have two text views here. But because they are exactly at the same position, we cannot differentiate between them. But here we have an error. I told you that each UI component should have its own unique ID. So our second text view, we should change its ID to txt hi world instead of hello. Okay, now the problem is solved. But now, first, when we run the app, we want to see the hello world text view. We don't want to see the hi world. So first, let's go ahead and also change the text of this hi world text view to hi instead of hello. Now here, if I switch to the design tab, you can see that we can see both of these text views on top of each other, and that's not good. So we can go ahead and switch to the text tab, and let's set the alpha value of the hi world text view to be 0 so that we cannot see it initially. So I'm going to type in here alpha, and then I'm going to assign the value 0 here. So here, if you switch to the design tab, you should not see the hi world text view. But here, let me tell you that if you want to, you can also change the value of the alpha here inside the attributes section. So for example, you can select your UI component and then click on this search icon and then search for a specific attribute, for example, alpha. So here you can see that the value of the alpha is 0. Now we can go ahead and open our main activity class here. But first, we need to also declare our hi world text view. So I'm going to copy this value and paste it here again. And let's change it to txt hi world. And now, let's go ahead and initialize our hi world text view. So I'm going to type in here hi world. Assignment operator, find view by ID, r.id.txt hi world. Semicolon. Okay, now we know that the value of the alpha of this txt hi world is initially 0. So inside this onClick method, first let's go ahead and comment out this line of code. And then, so now we need to see what we are going to do exactly. We need to be aware. So first, I told you that I want, when the user clicks on this hello world text view, I want this text view to be completely faded out. So let's do one thing at a time. As you can see, what I'm doing here is to just break the problem into smaller parts, and then it will be completely easy. It will be very easy to solve this problem. Okay. So now the first job, the first task is just to fade out the hello world text view completely. So that's easy. I'm going to say txt hello world dot animate dot and then alpha. So the alpha is going to be 0 and in a specific duration. So over a specific period of time, I want this animation to take place. So I'm going to say set duration. It is going to be 3 seconds, so 3000, semicolon. Next, we can go ahead and say, so now that the hello world text view is faded out, I'm going to say txt hi world. So remember that the alpha value of the txt hi world is now currently 0. Okay, we set that value in the XML file. Now we need to say dot animate dot alpha 1, okay, dot set duration, and let's set the duration to be the same value as the value of the txt hello world, so that we have some beautiful animations. So let's go ahead and run our application and let's see what happens. Next, let's go ahead and click on hello world. So now you can see that our animation is working perfectly. So hopefully that makes sense. So here I have another challenge for you. So here you can see that we have this hi world, and if I click on it again it's gonna execute this onClick method, and it's gonna fade out the txt hello world and fade in the txt hi world, and it's gonna execute the same thing over and over. So I don't want this to happen. When I click on this text view and the hi world is now faded in, and when I click on it again, then I want the hi world to fade out and the hello world to fade in. So that is your challenge. Go ahead and write a logic here. It can be a little bit hard. You know, you can use if statement, you can use Boolean variables. So give this challenge a go. Make sure to put all your efforts into solving this challenge, and then continue watching this tutorial and see how I am going to solve this problem. So good luck. Before solving this challenge, I'm gonna let you know about an important concept that I think I have already told you about. And this is the concept of local and instance variables. So when you create a local variable, this means that your variable is created inside the method. So for example, inside the onCreate method, if I go ahead and type in int number assignment operator 2 semicolon. So this variable is just a local variable, right? This means that the life of this variable is limited to the execution of this method. So when this method is executed, then this variable also dies. We don't have this variable anymore, and it cannot be accessed from anywhere inside this class. So for example, if you create a new method inside your class, then that method cannot access this variable because this variable is limited to the scope of this method. But if I go ahead and cut this variable and put it inside the class, then that's a different story. The life of this variable is actually now dependent on the life of our application. So as long as the application is open, then this variable is alive. So this means that all the other methods can use this variable, and its value can be used from anywhere. So, but if you put this variable inside the method, then this variable would be dependent on that method, and that means that your variable dies when that method is executed. So hopefully that makes sense. So now that I have told you about this important concept, let's go inside the main activity class and let's create a new variable. Let's say private, and the data type of the variable is Boolean. So the name of our variable should start with is because its data type is Boolean. So I'm going to say is, and then the name is going to be is hello world showing semicolon. So first let me tell you that because this is an instance variable, our Boolean instance variables has a default value as false. So the default value of the variable, if you don't provide a value for it, which is of the Boolean, is going to be false. Now you can go ahead and go inside the onClick method. So first, let's make sure that you are actually commenting out these 2 lines of code, that is just fading out the hello world and fading in the hi world. Now you just need to go ahead and create an if statement. So if now refer to our variable is hello world showing. So when you put this condition inside the parentheses of an if statement, this means that if the value of this Boolean variable is true, so whether you put it this way or whether you put 2 equal operators and say true, it is the same. So I'm not gonna put this syntax here, I'm just gonna refer to the name of this variable and say if the value of this is hello world showing is true, then we can go ahead and say that if the text view is clicked, then we can say that the hello world text view to be faded out and the hi world text view to be fading in. So now I'm gonna just copy this line of code that is going to fade out the hello world text view, and then I'm gonna again copy this line of code and paste it here that is going to fade in the hi world text view. So if this condition is true and the hello world is actually showing, then we are going to fade out the hello world text view and we are going to fade in the hi world text view. But because this condition is now true, so after executing these two lines of code and showing our animations, I am going to say that is hello world showing it to be actually false. So if it is true, then fade out the hello world and fade in the hi world, and then assign the value false to this is hello world showing variable. Next, we can go ahead and create an else if statement and say else if the value of this is hello world showing is actually false. So I'm gonna put this bang operator, this exclamation mark, bang is hello world showing, so it is going to reverse the value of this Boolean variable. This bang operator is going to simply reverse the value of this variable. So this means that if the value of this is hello world showing Boolean variable is not true, then we can go ahead and say that the hello world is not showing. So we can go ahead and just copy and paste these two lines of code here. So let me copy them, paste them here. But this time we want to fade in the hello world. So I'm gonna set the alpha value of the hello world to be 1, and we want to fade out the hi world. So I'm gonna set the value of this alpha to be 0. Okay. So now inside this else if statement, we can go ahead and assign the value true to our variable. So is hello world showing true, semicolon. So here we are simply saying that if the value of this is hello world showing is not true, then this means that the hello world text view is not actually currently visible on the screen. So we are going to fade in our hello world text view by setting the value of the alpha to be 1 over a 3 seconds period, and then we are going to fade out our hi world and we are going to set the alpha value to be 0, and then we are going to set the value true to this is hello world showing variable, so that next time that the user clicks on that text view, then it's gonna again take a look at this if statement and it's gonna, for example, go inside the parentheses and see the condition, and if the value of this hello world showing is true, then it's gonna go ahead and execute these lines of code, and if not, if the value of this is hello world showing is not true, then it's gonna go ahead and execute the codes inside this else if statement. So if it doesn't make sense, don't worry. If it sounds confusing a little bit, that's okay. You're going to learn all about if and else ifs later in this course. You're going to master the Boolean variables, but you can go ahead and write on a piece of paper these conditions, and you can simply figure it out that what's happening here, what's going on here. And remember, you can always ask questions, you can always post a discussion in the course, and I will do my best to answer all of your questions. So now let's go ahead and let's run the app and let's see what is going to happen. So now let's go ahead and click on this hello world text view. So as you can see, now it is faded out and the hi world is faded in. Now let's go ahead and click on this hi world text view. Now the hi world is faded out and the hello world is faded in. So now it's challenge time. Go ahead and download 2 images, one image for a lion and another image of a leopard, and then put it inside your layout. And every time the user clicks on an image view, I want the first image to be animated and finally to be faded out, and I want the second image to be animated and faded in. And again, when the user clicks on the second image, I want the second image to be faded out, and I want the first image to be faded in. So that is your challenge, and you already know what to do. So now let's go ahead and let's drag another text view here. Let's put it below this hello world text view. Let's add the constraints first. And here, let's change the text to be professional Android app development. And let's increase this text size. Let's change the background color. And let's also change the text color. So I'm gonna just click on color tab and then click on add new resource, new color value. And here, let's choose a color. Okay, that's fine. Now let's also give this text view an ID. So txt Android. And let's go to the main activity class. And we need to also declare our text view here. So private text view txt, and let's name it as the same as the ID. And then we need to initialize our text view. Next, let's go ahead and let's specify an onClick listener for this txt Android. So before the ending curly brace of this onCreate method, I'm gonna say txt Android dot set onClick listener. So new and then capital V, so that I can use the autocomplete feature. Inside this onClick method, I can go ahead and this time I want to use the translation animation that is going to move our layout, our view to a specific value. So for example, let's say txt Android dot animate dot, so let's just type in here translate. And here we have translation X, translation X by translation Y, and Y by Z, and Z by. So let's go ahead and use the first one, translation X, and let's enter a value. For example, let's say 3000. So 3000 here means the DP. So here we means move our txt Android with this value 3000 DP. So translation X is going to be the value on a horizontal axis. So now you might wonder that what is this X? What is Y? What is the value of the X and Y, and where it actually starts? If you switch to the activity underline mirror.xml, the X and Y in Android app development here starts from the top left corner. So here we have the X, the initial value of the X, which is 0, and the initial value of the Y, which is 0. So when it goes to the right, the value of the X increases, and when it goes to the bottom, the value of the Y increases. So this means that when I, for example, move to the left, then we have a negative value for the X, and here if we go to the top, then we have a negative value for the X. So move right, move bottom, positive values, move left and move top, we have negative values. So here when I say move our value, our txt Android, by this value 3000, 3000 means DP. Okay, it's gonna move it on a horizontal axis here to the right because it is a positive value. So the X value starts here, and 3000 is gonna move it to the right. So now we just need to go ahead and put another method, so dot set duration. So the duration here, let's choose 2000 milliseconds, 2 seconds, semicolon. Let's go ahead and run our app and let's see what happens. So now let's click on our text view, professional Android app development. Now we can see that it is now moved to the right. So what happens if I put a negative value here, minus 3000, let's go and click on run button and let's see what happens. So if I click on this text view, now it moves to the left. So hopefully now you get the idea that what do I mean by the X, okay? And especially the positive and negative values. So for example, if I move it to the top, So let's go ahead and comment out this line of code, and here I can say txtandroid dot animate dot translate. So let's choose this time y, translation y, and let's use the value again 3000, and the duration is going to be 2 seconds. So set duration. We can increase the duration, so let's this time choose 3000 as the duration and just put semicolon. Let's run the app now. So let's go ahead and click on this professional Android app development text view. So now it moved to the bottom. Why? Because I used a positive value, okay? And if I use a negative value, for example, minus 3000, let's run the app now. Let's click on it again. Now it moves to the top. So hopefully that makes sense. And now let's go ahead and use other methods. For example, we have translation x by. So let's say txtandroid dot animate dot translate, and let's choose translation x by. And now I'm gonna use, for example, 200, and then the duration is going to be 5 seconds. So I'm gonna choose 5000 semicolon. So let's see what is the difference between translation x by and translation x. Let's run the app. So if I click on this text view, let's see what happens. So over a period of 5 seconds, it is moving to the right. So as you can see, there is not that much difference between translation x and translation x by, or maybe translation y and translation y by, because they are doing the same thing, the same effect we have here. But the translation, for example, x by is using some different mathematics. So you don't have to worry about that. We are achieving the effect that we are desiring. So now that we have these animations, first let me tell you that, for example, if the position of our text view is at the, for example, the x is 100 and the y is 500, when we use the translation x, and for example, we use 3000, it's gonna add the 3000 to the value of the x. So 3000 plus 100, it is going to be 3100. So that is going to be the value of the x. So that is the mathematics that is used here in order to move our UI component on a specific direction. So if you use minus, it is going to move it to the left. And if you use positive, right, and this is the same for the y-axis. So here I just wanted to let you know about the positive values and the negative values that we use on our UI. So hopefully that makes sense. And now it's challenge time. Go ahead and use the same animation effect on your leopard image. You can go ahead and add another image view to your layout, and then you can use the translation animation on your leopard and move it to the right, left, to the top, and to the bottom. And make sure that you set a duration so that the animation takes place over a specific period of time. And good luck. Now let's go ahead and learn about the rotation animation. So here, I'm gonna comment out this line of code. So you can also perform animations in a row. So for example, this is the first animation. And then after this animation, I'm gonna say txtandroid dot animate dot, and then just type in here rotation. So here we have rotation, rotation by, rotation x, x by, y, and y by. So let's choose the first one, rotation. And let's add a value. So for example, we can here enter the value of the degree. So 180 degrees is going to be the value of the half circle. If you are maybe a little bit familiar with the mathematics, that would be really helpful here. So for example, you can also search in Google in order to learn what is the degrees, for example, for a half circle, for a full circle, and other values. So I'm gonna enter 180 degrees and then the duration. So I want this animation to take place over a 3 seconds period. and then semicolon. Let's run the app. So now let's go ahead and click on our text view. So now you can see that it moves to the right and it also rotates. And here, this is how our animation is taking place. So first we have the translation X by 200 and we have the rotation 180. So for example, if you just enter the value 360 here, and if you run the app, so here we have another option, and that is called apply changes. So it's not gonna run your app, it is going to apply the changes to your application. It is much more faster, but you can use it here, but sometimes it may not work. So in that case, you just need to go ahead and run your app. For now, let's just choose this icon in order to apply the changes. And you can see, if I click on this text view, now we have a full circle as the rotation of our text view, and our text view is also moved to the right 200 pixels over a 5 seconds period. So hopefully that makes sense. So now let's go ahead and use other animations, but for now let's just comment out these other animations because I don't want these animations to conflict with our new animation. I'm gonna type in here txtandroid.animate.rotation. So let's choose rotation by. So let's enter, for example, 30, and let's go ahead and set the duration and choose 4000 for seconds. Let's run our app, or let's apply the changes. Now let's go ahead and click on our text view, professional Android app development. So now you can see that our text view is rotated by 30. So this 30 could be the 30 degrees. So for example, I can enter 90. Let's see what happens. So if I click on this text view, now it's gonna rotate it, and here it is, the 90-degree angle, right? And what happens if I enter a negative value here, click on this text view, now we can see that it rotates to the left instead of right. So hopefully that makes sense. So you can go ahead and play around with these animations. So txtandroid.animate. And here rotation again. So we have rotation X. So let's choose this one, rotation X, and let's enter the value 400 over a period of 3 seconds. Run our app. So let's click on our text view. Now you can see that our animation is taking place. So it is the rotation X, and this is how it affects our text view. So now let's go ahead and use rotation Y and apply the changes. Let's see what happens. So now you can see this animation effect here. You can also go ahead and change the value of the rotation if you want and see the effects. So here we can also combine our animations. So let's choose the rotation Y to rotation X because I like this one better. And let's add another animation. So after rotation X, after the ending parenthesis, I'm gonna put dot, and then we can choose another animation. So let's choose, for example, translation Y, okay? And let's choose 2000. And now let's go ahead and run our app, and notice that first we have the rotation X 400 and then translation Y 2000. So it's gonna execute both of these animations over a particular period of time, so 3 seconds. So let's apply the changes. Now click on this text view, and here you can see this animation, this nice animation effect that is taking place here. So hopefully that makes sense. So now it's challenge time. Go ahead and use this combining animation feature on your images, your lion image and your leopard image, and use the translation and the rotation animation on both of your images and then combine it. So give this challenge a go and good luck. So now let's also go ahead and work on the scale animation, and dot scale. So again, we have scale x by, and y by. So let's choose scale x, and let's enter a value, for example, 0.2. And because this is actually a float value, we need to put f dot and then the duration. So let's also combine it with another animation. So let's say scale y, and the duration is going to be 3 seconds. Let's apply the changes. Now let's go ahead and click on our text view. Now you can see this animation here, okay? So here, because we are using a value less than 0, we are scaling down this animation on x and y. So if you only want to see the scale x animation, you can just delete that scale y method, and then you can see that how it is scaled down in an x direction, in an x horizontal axis. So you can also, instead of scale x, choose scale y and then apply the changes. And here you can see how it is scaled down on its height actually. So hopefully that makes sense. So I have another challenge for you. So I want, when the user runs the app, I want initially the position of this hello world app and this one, this text view, to be off the screen. So the hello world should be at the right and this one should be at the left. And they should both be off the screen. And when the app runs, I want both of them to just come back to their original position, but with an animation. You can use whatever animation that you want, for example, rotation, translation, scale, but I want to see some animation effects when these two text views just enter into our screen. So give this challenge a go and good luck. So now let's go ahead and solve this challenge. So initially I want both of our text views to be off the screen. So inside this onClick or onCreate method actually, here before this if statement, I'm gonna refer to my hello world and hi world. So let's say txt hello world dot set x. So here you can see that we have x and y that is going to specify the position of our UI component inside our layout. So remember what I told you about the x and y. X starts from the top left corner. Okay, so I just want to change the value of the x. I don't want to do anything with the y value because the y value is okay. I want the x to be changed and I want to put the hello world to be off the screen from right, and then I can go ahead and perform some animations, and then I can bring back our hello world text view. So let's change the setX method and let's choose, for example, 2000. So this value is going to put the text view off the screen. And let's change the value of this hi world text view. So txt hi world. So I want the hi world text view to enter from the left. So let's say set x and let's use minus 2000 this time. And also I want this professional Android app development to come from top. So I'm gonna choose txt android.set y. So remember what I told you about the y-axis. If you want to move the text view to the top, you are going to use a negative value. And if you want to move the text view to the bottom, you are going to use a positive value. So here I'm gonna use a negative value and I'm gonna use, for example, 3000. Now if I go ahead and run the app, we should no longer be able to see our text views here. So here we can see that our text views are still on the layout. That's because I have mistakenly put these codes inside the onClick method. So if I click on these text views, now they are gone. So that's why this is the wrong place to put our codes. We need to put our codes inside the onCreate method. So after initializing our text views, because we are going to refer to our text views, so it's better to put these methods here after initializing our UI components. So when we actually refer to them, we don't have any problems. So now let's go ahead and apply these changes. Now we should not be able to see our UI components here. So that works fine. Now I'm gonna use animation. I'm gonna go ahead and add another button into our layout. So let's put this button here below this text view, and let's add the constraints, and let's give this an ID, ViewAnimator, and let's change the text to be bring UI components, and I think that's fine. Let's go into our main activity. So you know that we need to declare our button here the same as our text views. So private button ViewAnimator, and let's go inside this onCreate method and initialize it. That's okay. So sometimes when you want to refer to the ID of your UI component, the Android Studio might not recognize your component. So in that case, if that happens, just go ahead and click on build and then click on rebuild project, or you just need to go ahead and click on file and then click on invalid caches or restart. So here it is the option. Now that is working fine. Let's go inside our onCreate method and let's also create an onClick listener for our button. So before the ending curly brace of the onCreate method here, so if you want to find the ending curly brace, just know that the last ending curly brace of your file inside your file is related to your class. So this ending curly brace is related to the onCreate method. I'm gonna refer to my button and the onClick listener, new view.onClick listener. Inside this onCreate method, I can put the animations. So first, let's add the animation to the txt hello world. So I'm gonna say txt hello world, and I'm gonna say dot animate. So because I want to bring the txt hello world back to its original position, I'm gonna say dot translation x. Okay, so first we need to see, let's go inside this onCreate method here. You can see that I set the value 2000 when I wanted this txt hello world to be off screen. So now if I wanted to bring it back, I need to use minus 2000. Okay, and then I can combine it with another animation. So for example, I can rotate it, and I can say, for example, 2000 as the degree of the rotation, and then I can just call the duration, and let's say 3000 as the duration, 3000 milliseconds. So that's okay. Now I just need to bring back the txt hi world. So txt hi world dot animate, and I want to bring back our txt hi world, so translation x. So let's go and see what is the value that we set for our txt hi world when we wanted to just put this txt hi world off screen. So it is minus 2000. So in order to bring it back to its original position, we need to use 2000. And we can also combine it with another animation. So for example, I can use scale, and I can use scale x, and I can choose 200. Dot set duration 2000 semicolon. And finally, we need to bring back our txt android. So txt android dot animate dot translation x. So let's go and see what is the value that we used in order to, okay, so here you can see that our txt android is actually off screen, but we used set y. So in order to bring it back, we need to use translation y and then pass the value 3000 because it is minus 3000 now. So here, instead of using translation x, we need to use translation y and pass the value 3000 and combine this animation with another animation if you like. For example, you can use alpha, and then here you can use, for example, 0.7, and then we can go ahead and set the duration. So the value of the alpha is going to be a float value, so put the letter F here, and then that's set duration. The duration is going to be 4000, semicolon. Let's go ahead and let's apply the changes. So now I'm gonna click on this button, bring UI components. So here you can see that we have a problem. Our UI components are gone. They just came and went. So here it is your challenge. I want you to go ahead and solve this challenge and see what is wrong here. What we put here that caused this problem. This is a bug. How we can solve this problem. So give this challenge a go and good luck. So now I want you to tell you about the difference between translation X and translation X by. So the reason that our UI components came and went out of the screen is exactly this. So here, let me show you the emulator. So for example, if I click on this button, notice that our text view comes and then it moves back. It moves to the left and it's off the screen now. Why? When we say translation X, this means that move our UI component to this specific value of X on a horizontal axis. Okay? So it could be a positive value on the right, or maybe it could be a negative value on the left. It's just gonna move our UI component on that specific X value, on that specific X position. So 2000 is a very large value and it's always off the screen. We cannot expect our UI component to be on the screen if we want to use a value like 2000. But what if I choose translation X by? Translation X by is different. It is going to use a multiplication operation here, and it is going to bring our UI component from its current position to the value that we specified here inside the parentheses. So for example, the current position of our UI component, for example, hello world, we set the X to be 2000. But translation X by is going to simply move our UI component according to its current position. So the current position of our text view is 2000 on the horizontal x-axis. Here you can see. So now I want to move it to another direction, right? So that's why here inside this unclick listener of our button, I used a minus value, and according to its current position, it's gonna move it to a new value. So that's why if you use translation X by, the problem will be solved and our text view will be on its original position that was before. So this is the same case for txt hi world, but there is actually a bug related to this txt hi world. I will talk about it in a minute. Don't worry about this one, but just change the translation X to translation by for now. And also, this is the same case for our txt Android. We want our txt Android that is currently on the position minus 3000 on the top of the screen. It is off screen. I want to bring it back to its original position by using translation y by. So according to its current position, which is now off the screen, it's going to bring it back to this value on the y axis. So let's go ahead and apply these changes and let's see what happens. So if I go ahead and click on this button, let's see what happens. So here it is our text view, and here it is our professional Android app development text view. So we have another bug. Where is actually our hi world text view? So this is your challenge. Give this challenge a go and good luck. So if you remember, we set the alpha value of our hi world text view to be 0. So we need to go into our layout, and inside this componentry section, you can select txt hi world, and then you can find the alpha attribute here and then set it to 1 so that it is actually visible. Now let's go ahead and apply our changes, and now we should see our animation effect here on this hi world text view. So click on this button. So now it's working perfectly. So you can see that I used a scale animation on our high vertex view, so that's why you can see this effect here. Hopefully that makes sense. So in the next tutorial, we are going to start creating a new game that is called Lion or Tiger. So if you have any questions about these topics that you've learned so far in this course, please post a discussion in the course, and then I will be there to answer all of your questions. And please make sure to practice on the skills that you are learning in this course, because it is very crucial that you learn each topic. And you can always ask me questions, or you can also post a discussion in the course. Thanks very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.